Welcome to another episode of Live with Laura. I'm your host, Laura Hettiger. Friends, I am so excited to get into the conversation today because it's going to be the spark plug many of you need to say, yes, I can do this. Yes, I'm going to go after my dreams. And yes, I am going to work really, really hard to get there. We have a local gal who graduated from St. Joe's, then went to Mizzou, and has made her entire career in Washington, D.C., one of the hardest cities in the entire world to navigate. Her name is Emily Lampkin, and not only is she in studio, she has also written a book that's available right now on Amazon and anywhere that you get books. It'll stand out to you. It's hot pink. It is called Duct Tape and White Lies, and it's already a bestseller. So let's go ahead and meet our best-selling author, the St. Louisan Emily Lampkin. Emily, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Laura.
So our friends off screen cannot see this, but your very proud dad is here with you today.
How amazing is that?
Very amazing. And it's so cool that he's here today because he still lives in St. Louis. You are from St. Louis. What are some of your Midwestern roots that still stick with you today?
Practicality, directness, and hard work. I am always going to out-hustle everybody else.
I'm surprised that you said directness because so many people think of the Midwest and we're just really nice. We're really friendly. What do you say to that?
Oh, I think both are true, but I don't think we have a fake niceness to us. I think I wouldn't describe people necessarily in the Midwest as nice as much as I would describe them as kind. And I would describe myself as well as kind, but we don't beat around the bush like they do in some of the other cultures in our country.
How do you define kind?
I describe kindness. What I describe as most important is nobody dictates my character but me. And I'm going to carry myself in a certain way. It's partially being a woman leader. And by the way, all of us are. Some of us admit it to ourselves. Some of us recognize it. The others are still working on it. That's fine. That's why I'm here. We're going to work on it. But being a woman leader means I've got some obligations, and it's how I carry myself, how I present myself to others, and what my character looks like. I'm always going to be kind. Doesn't mean that I don't appreciate the situation and that I'm not working towards something, but there's no reason to be rude or belittle other people, especially women.
And we are going to get into that so much more throughout this conversation. As Emily mentioned, she is a female leader. In fact, you have started your own women leadership series. Please tell me a little bit about that.
I worked, as you mentioned, in Washington my entire career, in politics and business and government. And while I was doing that, I was observing what made women successful. And not just the ones with the fancy title, who was really thriving in their life. And I was taking notes on my phone. It became clear over time that they excelled at three fundamentals. Selling you, they had built a brand around themselves. They knew who their opposition was. They knew how men and women communicated, and they were using this to get what they wanted. Number two, widening the circle. This is all about networking, building a network. There's no reason to build and maintain a network if you don't use it to get what you wanted. And number three, they were going now. And more than 50% of the women on this globe are unsatisfied with their life. They gave up on their dreams. And I'm not talking about that dream that we wanted to be a cowgirl or supermodel. I'm talking about these things that we all know in the back of our head are really important to us. And they were getting out of their own way and making them happen. All right, so I was looking at this. And I went out and I thought, and I looked. Nobody was teaching this. So I went out and taught it. And as I did, people were asking for a book.
When did you start the Women Leadership Series?
It was about 5 years ago. And I went and started testing it, and it took off like gangbusters. I couldn't believe how quickly it took off. Within 8 months, I had solidified the material that really was resonating with women and had copywrote it. And it was now an international thing. It had moved so quickly from an American thing to me doing it for the U.S. State Department around the world talking about American values of women empowerment and entrepreneurship. And there were other international groups and international businesses. Can I tell you a quick story?
Please.
It was last spring. I was in Europe speaking, and this woman came up to me afterwards, and she said, I heard you a couple of years ago, and you were so helpful, and I learned so much that I came back to hear you the second time. I was like, that's nice. We had a nice visit for a few minutes afterwards, and then she handed me her business card and left and walked away. And I tell this story because at times people say, oh, this is a great book for 18-year-olds, but not me because I'm 54. This woman is the president of her country. Yes. It is amazing how much we all have in common and how all of us always want to be better at whatever it is we're doing.
And something that I've already gathered about you, you treated her, even though you didn't know she was the president of her country, you probably treated her the exact same as you would have treated the woman who's checking in people for that conference.
Because they're all women leaders.
Yes.
There's no difference.
Something, though, I have been at Channel 4 for 14 years. I've been in my career over 15 years. I don't remember someone taking the females who work here or anywhere aside and say, let's make you a leader. Why do you think that doesn't happen more in business?
I think some businesses do it, and some of them do it better than others. But what I have found is the women who are most successful and satisfied with their life, some of them have had that kind of direction, and some of them haven't, either in the workplace or in other environments. But the ones who are the most satisfied with their lives have done it for themselves. Because there's really no satisfaction in anything until we've done it for ourselves. Until we can give ourselves our own Hettiger, what difference does it make?
And I'm guessing not only give it to ourselves, but give it to other women too. When you see that they're doing big things, give the Hettiger to them.
That's a woman leader. If today somebody who's listening to this chooses to go to some woman and pay her a compliment, you, my friend, are a woman leader. That's what we do. There's a whole, my book is full of these things that I call accessories. And there are many chapters that you can refer to again and again and again. There are things like how to say no without saying no, how to throw a simple cocktail party, how to give a gift that's not expensive, that builds a relationship, that is not wine or flowers. And one of my lists in the accessories is just Hettigers you can give other women. What a difference it makes.
And I'm guessing these Hettigers don't always have to happen face to face. You're on social media. I'm on social media. Some of you watching might be on social media. Even a nice comment on someone's post could go a long way.
Especially when you're a public official like you and me, and people come at us on social media. It's so nice to be regrounded by real life people who don't think that this is an anonymous opportunity to take a hit at somebody just because you're unsatisfied with your life. So they come at other people and have to belittle other people. Yes, in fact, today on social media, if you follow me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn, my Friday tip for women is all about these addict girls and responding on social media. I probably do 20 a day. Just people I do or don't know, just giving them addict girls. Yes.
You gave one to me yesterday.
Yes.
I made a post about you coming on the podcast. I think you shared it and said, can't wait, looking forward to it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And this is going to be such an important message that you are going to deliver later today when you go home to your alma mater, St. Joe's, where you are going to be speaking to 650 girls, 14 to 18 years old, who have only known life in a digital setting. What are some things you want to instill in them?
I am going to instill the very basics. I remember being their age. I barely want to listen to myself talk now. I certainly didn't want to hear a lot of Emily back then. I am speaking very briefly. I'm leaving them with some clear basics. The dictation of character, how you need to carry yourself in life. And what I think we've done the biggest disservice for women that age, and really youth in general, is the clear importance of some of these basic skills. Some people call them soft skills. Shaking somebody's hand, smiling, Saying your name clearly and your full name. I can't tell you how many times, it's not just girls, it's women, where I introduce myself and I'm like, okay, so what's your name? And then they'll tell me, Jill. And I'm like, Jill what? Why am I asking you for this? And you've already knocked your power down by not suggesting that you're somebody who's important enough to have a first and last name that I'm going to want to know.
What other things are you going to tell the girls today?
I'm going to talk about taking risk. And I always talk about taking risks, that this is really a decider in people's lives and if they see themselves as thriving or not. And also because risk means you make mistakes. And I call them now I knows because that's the way you get ahead. And that is my entrepreneurial spirit that I think is very valuable. But I'm going to talk to the girls about, applying to those jobs where you only meet 3 of the 5 qualifications. Start applying to those things that you don't think. Apply to the stretch school you don't think you can get into. And by the way, you probably aren't going to get into it, but we got to get in this habit of taking risks, of putting ourselves out there.
That's exactly how I got this job at Channel 4. I applied. They were looking for someone who had 3 years of experience. At the time, I had a whopping 14 months of experience. But I thought, okay, well, that's close enough to 3 years. Why not go for it? I was able to get an interview, literally showed up and just knocked on the door and said, I am here. I would like to talk to the news director. The news director wasn't here that day. Great. Is the assistant news director here? He's not here. Wonderful. Is a janitor here? Is anyone working today? About the 4th in line was there, and I said, I just want to personally give you my resume and my DVD. I'm Laura. Started talking to this gentleman, talked for well over an hour. I truly talked my way into a job. But if I would have followed what Channel 4 had written on the job application that you had to have 3 years experience, I would not be here. I would not have my career. I would not have my husband. I would not have my kids. So I love that you say, apply even if it says you don't have those things, because you never know.
I love this story. I love the human beings, the women who are extraordinary, who tell their stories. Thank you for sharing that.
I appreciate that feedback. Emily, something I've noticed, though, I do hold back on sharing things like that. And something that I've gathered through researching you, men and women speak about themselves differently. And maybe it's because I'm now older, wiser, I'm a mom, I pay attention more probably. I've definitely noticed that. And you have too.
I talk a lot about, in the book and when I speak, about how men and women communicate differently. I think this is really important because I think most people don't know this. And I will begin with the obvious. If you are communicating with men the same way you're communicating with women, you are losing. You are behind. Our brains are wired differently. We are wired for consensus. We are looking to find commonality amongst ourselves. That's often why our conversations take longer to begin. We're looking for something in common. I noticed that when I came in the studio, every woman I interacted with was looking for some immediate, what do we have, a hook, something in common. Men's brains aren't wired like that. They're wired that somebody is the one up and somebody is the one down in a conversation. So when you approach a man, let me tell you, when I'm talking to you, I'm going to use the term we. I'm not going to interrupt you because oftentimes that, quote, hurts women's feelings. And I am not going to be too braggadocious. I call it like Downton Abbey speak. Everything's going to be slightly hidden and a whole bunch of fluffery because women otherwise think that you're bragging or think too much of yourself. With men, I'm using the term I. It's completely different. I am taking really clear credit for my accomplishments. I'm not saying we did this at KMOV. I'm saying I, Laura, did this. And I'm laying those out. If you hide the ball for them, they're not going to go find it in your words. You got to give it to them. I will even interrupt them. But I tell women the number one most important thing to men, and this is great dating advice too, they're not looking for love, they're looking for respect. You show respect to men, and you automatically have an in. Even when I interrupt him, I'm going to say, you'll appreciate this. I want him to buy in, and I want him to know I respect him, and I'm going to speak to him with a level of respect. It gets me a lot further in life.
Mm-hmm. I am loving this conversation already. We're about 15 minutes in with Emily Lampkin, a St. Louis gal in town, so she can go spread her wisdom to other St. Louis gals currently at St. Joe. Her book, her best-selling book, New York Times bestseller?
USA Today and LA Times.
How does that feel?
It is a recognition of the work that went into this. Didn't happen on accident.
Oh, absolutely it didn't. Duct Tape and White Lies, a woman's practical guide to real-life success. We are going to continue this conversation with Emily, but friends, this is what I want you to do. If there is a woman in your life, could be your sister, your best friend, your mom, who is ready to take a risk, to do something big, send this to her, because this might be the spark plug that they need to make that first step, to pick up the phone, to send the DM with someone that they have wanted to meet. You have no idea what the advice from Emily could do for another woman in your life. We have much more coming up on Live with Laura. We are thrilled that you are giving us so much of your time on a Friday. I'm Laura Hettiger, your host of Live with Laura, and I'm thrilled that Emily Lampkin is giving us so much of her time. She is from St. Louis, went to Mizzou, then right after college, you took about a year in St. Louis and then moved to Washington, D.C.?
That's correct.
What was it about Washington, D.C. that you saw at such a young age that you knew you wanted to start a career there?
Politics is my favorite sport. And I mean, if you're going to play the sport, there's nowhere else on the planet to be than in the city. It is, as you can imagine, the home of everybody from somewhere else who's a type A personality. I always say in that town, if you're worried about getting fired, you will not be successful because it is a dog-eat-dog world.
Will you please share us some of the jobs that you have had in Washington, D.C.?
Sure. I worked on President George W. Bush's campaign. I had worked for one of the congressional committees that reelects House members. I worked in the federal government, both in high-ranking positions at the Department of Commerce and the Department of Education. I was a partner at a public affairs firm downtown. I assure you, none of the other partners had the number of children I had that I was responsible for at home, and then this big job. I've done a ton of things. My big passion has always been in that town is electing more women to office, frankly, regardless of party, across the country and around the world. And the ones I'm most passionate about, the ones who will take your breath away, are these women who are running and are serving in office in burgeoning democracies around the world. If you think you have a rough day, what they are willing to risk for freedom and future for their families is awestruck.
It is such an important point to remember. I get so frustrated when people start dogging things, our country, our city. When you take a step back and realize how good we do have it, simply because we were born in this country at this time, it's really amazing.
Thank you for saying that.
And you see it. I had a conversation last weekend with a college friend. He is 39. Recently ran for Edwardsville, Illinois' city council. He did not win. In his Facebook post about it, he talked about how much he enjoyed learning how to do a campaign, but he also talked about how campaigns and even being elected is really not suitable for people who are raising a family, bringing kids into this world, and it's just so hard. What do you have to say to young people, both men and women, who would like to win an election, to represent the people that they care so much about, but it does feel like such an uphill battle?
Well, it is an uphill battle. I disagree that you can't do it. This is all about us making choices. First of all, I appreciate him running.
Yes.
I appreciate anybody who participates in our process. I always say, I'm more interested in respecting you because you participate than if you agree with me or not. I need everybody to have skin in the game. This is where we live. these are choices all of us make. And, here's how I would put it in perspective. I chose the title of that book because this was always my answer when women would say to me in Washington, "How do you do it all, Emily?" Because I think we often think about others, "Oh, well, what Emily has is perfect," or "That's what I aspire to. She has it all together." I wanted to dissuade them in a quick answer, first of all, that my life was perfect, because perfection is miserable. It's also unattainable, and none of us should be wanting it. And we live our life in the messy middle, but you can still have what you want. Mm-hmm. And I say all of that because women often think, well, I would like what Emily has. I don't know if you're willing to do the sacrifices I make. The amount I've worked every day, part or portion of the last 30 years. And when you're a public official, you are under public scrutiny, including your whole family, and everybody doesn't want that, and that's okay. But we just need to thank the people. First thing I ever do when I meet somebody who's elected is thank them for running and thank them for choosing to do that.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier, though, you had a huge job in Washington, one of your many huge jobs, with 3 kids at home. How do you handle that? Because I think that's something I do struggle with every single day. Other moms I talk to, my best friends are like, this is really hard. How do we continue to make it all work and be there for everyone and also ourselves?
I love this. And frankly, this is the whole crux of the book. The whole crux of the book is the pieces of this. Let's start with family and work. What we would like to deliver to all of those people will never happen. At both home and work, they will never get what we think we should be giving them. We have got to be okay with ourselves that everybody is getting an amazing amount, and we're really looking at it different than everybody else does. I talk about in the book that we have so little discretionary time, right? The vast majority of us are full-time caretakers for one or more people, women in this country. And we always call ourselves a mom or a daughter or something. What we are is full-time caretakers, plus we have jobs. And it leaves us with about 2 to 20% of discretionary time every week. And we've got very little of it. We have to protect it. That's why I have an accessory in there, how to say no without saying no. Start saying no. You've got to say no. If that means your kids are eating dinosaur chicken nuggets 3 nights this week and you never cook anything, stop beating yourself up about that. I have grown men, children, who have crutched through life just fine, having Pez dispensers for me to get through a conference call in the car, and have eaten chicken nuggets or saltines for dinner. Everybody survives.
I know I don't need permission because I'm
giving you permission. Let it go.
Thank you.
Let it go.
Oh my gosh. I can't tell you though, Emily, how many times being a mom, I've said to myself, you should be better at this. You should be better at this. And women, and I don't consider myself a perfectionist. I am very okay saying, this is good enough. But especially when it comes to balancing all the balls in the air, I do think I need to be better. What advice do you have for women who probably are doing great in so many ways, but still kind of beat themselves up on the inside?
I want you to focus in on this discretionary time and using that for something that's important to you. For some women, it's cleaning up the creek in their community. Some women, it's I am going to nail this PTA involvement I do once a year rather than trying to take on everything. For some other woman, it's I'm starting a new business or a Substack. Focusing on that discretionary time, because if you're pleased and centered, it not only benefits you, it benefits everyone around you.
Let's talk a little bit about mentorship. Do you have a mentor?
I have a battle with this term. So I did not. And we lived in a Washington. I don't know what the rest of the world was at this time, but we lived in a Washington. There were successful women ahead of us. And they're like, good luck with that. Nobody helped them. They were not helping us. I actually think it was a huge benefit to us. Mm-hmm. We all found our own way. Now, here's what I think, Laura. Sometimes when people say mentor these days, it's almost like you have this oracle figure in your life, and they're going to guide you and tell you what to do, and you just have to sit there and listen like, you know, it's the Wizard of Oz or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell women, I want you to seek advice from a lot of people and input. That's useful. Lots of people, men, women, lots of people. Listen. Look at how people carry themselves. And by the way, every woman does not need to make time for you. Just see how she carries herself, how she answers things. And then I want you to know that you're the only one who can make the decision because you're the only one with all of the information. And you are the only one who has to live with it.
Mm-hmm. And so much of the advice that you have given is free. These are free things that we can do, simply sitting back and observing. I don't have to pay $1 to do that.
That's absolutely true. And the book is full of stories of women who have found their way in different formats and different careers, so you can steal the best of the best from them.
Let's go back to the dream slashers you talk about. What are some of the dream slashers that you see women carrying with them?
Can we start with how amazing this is for this simple girl from the Midwest, that I have made up a term all my own, and now I run around the country and people feed it back to me. They're like, let's talk about dream slashers. Let's talk about swimsuit friends. Let's talk about all these things that this Delta Gamma from Mizzou made up and how we have so much in common. And we're like, yes. So dream slasher is all of these things we do to get in our own way. Mm-hmm. Here's some of my favorites. When my kids get older, when my mom's not sick, once I get the promotion, once I lose 20 pounds, that's a big popular one. Once I have the first $10,000 of investment, then I'm going to go do this thing that's important to me. Mm-hmm. These, ladies, are excuses. This is you in your own way. Other dream slashers, oversharing. And when you were talking about being a mom and having to do all this stuff, one of the things that I think we do takes some of our power away. Stop telling people where you are. If somebody says, can we have a meeting at 4 p.m. on Friday, and that's the time of your child's soccer game, say, I already have something at that time. Don't tell them where you are. It's none of their business. Then they get to choose if your priorities should actually be your priorities. None of your business where I am. Stop over apologizing. And all of us have to stop that, and we've got to stop one another. And I kindly tell other women, you didn't owe me an apology. We do that too much.
I have noticed so much in the last 6 months how much I do apologize for things that I have nothing to do with. A male coworker will start telling me that he has this going on or had to do this for a story that I didn't set up, that I didn't touch a thing with it. And I find myself, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And then I catch myself and I think, why am I'm not. I'm really not that sorry. That's just the job. That's what we all kind of signed up for. So is that just something that's drilled into us back to the start of our conversation when we talked about being nice versus kind? Is it because at 2 years old, a little girl is told, be nice, be nice, be nice? What have you observed with that?
This is a long-standing cultural phenomenon. Mm-hmm. And it also has to do with just, again, how our brains are wired. I have a whole accessory in the book, which is things you can say other than I'm sorry. Like other things. That was not my intention. I wish it would have worked out differently. And then other things that you can say when you're having a crummy day at work. Something else I see women do a lot is sharing things at work that just are completely unprofessional and don't belong there. I often tell women that's what girlfriends, moms, and therapists are for. Mm-hmm. It does not belong at work, ever. Ever. These are the kind of things we do to undermine ourselves. And vice versa. When we get out of these bad habits, when we overcome our dream slashers, the confidence level, sky high. You're no longer faking it. Mm-hmm. You actually are it.
I think that's interesting that you mentioned the oversharing because authenticity is the buzzword, and it has been for about the last 5 or so years. You have to be authentic. You have to show up as your authentic self every day. That's what people want. What do you say when people are saying, well, I'm sharing all of this because this is my authentic self, and if I hit part of that, then I'm not being authentic? That's something I've struggled with. I know some of my other coworkers have too, and I know my girlfriends have as well.
I don't think that's authenticity. I mean, I'm about as authentic as it gets. People are like, wow, had no doubt who you are. I don't hide it. And I go through this in detail in the book. We need to have levels of information we're sharing with them. Being an open book is not being authentic. That's oversharing. So I talk about in the book, I have 3 children. Mm-hmm. There is basic information that I will share with anybody if they ask me. Where do they go to school in D.C.? I'll tell them where they go to school. But if you ask other questions, who did their SAT prep? How did they do? Who are they dating? None of your business. Mm-hmm. Outside of a very close network of personal people, I won't share any of that. You also don't want to make somebody think that you're not, again, a kind person. And I get great questions from women. I had a woman who asked me the other day, she had had a child who was sick with leukemia for years. And so people understood that in her business because it meant her life changed dramatically in her participation in business. And now they're on the upswing. God bless this child, is in good health. She said, people will ask me in a meeting. And I said, all you have to say is, he's good, thanks for asking. End of conversation. And you've sent a really clear, polite message. I appreciate your kindness. I am my authentic self. But we're not getting into the details. Stop oversharing.
And I hope people are listening to what you are saying and thinking of the times that they do push people to overshare and maybe evaluating our conversation skills. Because I know I've definitely done that where I have asked for more information because I'm nosy that, quite frankly, is none of my business.
I have this great story. It's one of my kids. He was, when he's applying to college and everybody's like, where is he applying? Where is he applying? And he set me up with the answer. And so somebody would ask me, where is he looking to go to school? And I said, he's applying to clown college. And if he doesn't get in, he's going to join the league. And I asked him, I said, what league? He's like, don't know. And so every time someone would ask me, I like this, I'm only saying because you're using a sense of humor, but you're making it very clear I'm not answering the question. I'm like, well, he's applying to clown college. Mm-hmm. Like, we're not doing this.
And I appreciate that feedback because today I just feel like people do feel as though they are owed all of your information.
I think it goes perfectly in this authenticity too, mm-hmm. that they think, some people think authenticity means that, yes, I have access to all of this personal information about you. Authenticity, I am urging everybody to understand, is not the same as oversharing.
Mm-hmm. This has been an eye-opening conversation so far for me as I sit across from Emily Lampkin. She is impressive up and down the board, but the fact that she's a Midwestern girl just makes us connect even more. And I know she's connecting with so many of you too. If you are just joining us and maybe you missed the introduction, Emily is the author of the best-selling Duct Tape and White Lies, A Woman's Practical Guide to Real Life Success. You can get it anywhere you get books. Amazon, order it right now. It'll probably show up by this afternoon as quickly as they're delivering things. And she's in town to speak to all the girls currently at St. Joe's. We're going to take a break, come back with more from the best-selling author, Emily Lampkin. I feel so grateful that we have this podcast in this setting with Live with Laura, where I get to sit across from people who are just remarkable in so many different ways. And today's conversation has been great with St. Louis's own Emily Lampkin, best-selling author, total bad boss babe. Didn't cuss, so don't worry about that. Emily, because you have done so many things in your career, I was hoping you could look back. Is there any advice you wish you could have given yourself at Mizzou when you were 18, 19, 20 years old that would have made things maybe easier for you?
I think there are things. I don't think that if things were easier, I don't think I would be where I am. I think the hard was actually good. And I've actually enjoyed continuing to have to push myself outside of what I'm comfortable with. I do it today. I do it every day. I think that is where I find a lot of my life satisfaction.
What is the best advice you have ever received?
I don't know that there's anything in particular that stands out as the best advice I've ever gotten. I have, here's what I'll tell you. I have 2 really close girlfriends in D.C., and none of us come from fancy backgrounds. None of us went to fancy schools. And by the way, we're in a town where almost everybody went to a fancy school. And we have outperformed almost anybody in that town. And you know why? Because we have pushed ourselves individually, and we spend time together and bounce things off. And it is a very small, tight trust circle. I trust almost nobody in that town with a lot of information. But the 3 of us have really created a world where we have pushed each other, and that has been invaluable to me over the last 25 years.
And circling back to something you said earlier in the conversation, Attagirls, I'm guessing with these women, all 3 of you congratulate each other and support each other as you're navigating these big careers in this big town with big families.
Yes. It is almost a blind support. One of them has a book that came out within 4 weeks of mine. It was, of course, a Twitter in Washington that these 2 girlfriends everybody knows who are tight have 2 books, and that certainly this has to be a 7th grade Mean Girls thing, right? There is nobody more supportive of me, and there's nobody more supportive of her than each other. Yes.
Would you give a shout out to her and her book too?
Ashley Davis, The Power Pivot, came out on Tuesday. Yes.
Congratulations to her and your book. For those of you just joining us in real time, Duct Tape and White Lies, hot pink. You can get it right now. I can't wait to dive into this. And I love that you called the snacks in it accessories. Man, you just spoke to me whenever you...
I told you I love to come up with my own stuff, and it's amazing how much of it sticks.
Yes, it's so good. There are still, though, barriers that women face. What are some barriers that women in business, but also just in life, still face that is not talked about enough?
I had this man do an exceptional review of my book, but his criticism was I did not address all the barriers for women. I did not discuss lesser pay, people belittling our work, gender, opportunities not being there, sexual assault, all of these things. First of all, I thought it was really rich that he was criticizing my book for this. I also address it up front, that I chose not to address that book. Whatever challenges, just about whatever challenge anybody listening thinks they've had in these settings, so have I. But what I have realized is there are certain barriers and certain people who will set barriers. We just can't change them. And I am not going to get myself fixated on the fact that they are wrong or in the way. I'm just going to focus on going. And that's a lot of the stories I tell of other women in private equity, women in sports, women in entertainment who say, I am going to find my own route regardless of who's in the way or how it goes. That's the only way I know how to approach it. But does this stuff exist? It does. I also think lots of times women believe that other people are looking at them or that men are saying, well, you're a woman, so I don't take you seriously. And I don't know that it's always true.
Mm-hmm. I had a conversation. I was in Indianapolis last weekend, and I had a conversation with an Illinois alumni. He was 65, still working, works in Chicago. And we were all walking in to go to the Illinois game together. And I just started talking to him, and I don't know why, but I just said, do a lot of women work at your company? He goes, yeah. And I said, are any of them bosses? And I wasn't even thinking about this conversation. It must have been something else my girlfriend had said. And he said, yeah. And I said, and do you value their input? He goes, of course I do, and laid out all these things. And it just stuck out to me so much because we have misconceptions about men too. And we do assume that they think, well, she's just a woman. She's not going to bring as much to the table as a man with the same background would. And I really enjoyed that conversation with this gentleman that I was wrong. I was projecting the insecurities that I probably have onto someone else.
I think it's a great story. I think it stands on its own.
Mm-hmm. What about, though, women who feel like I did ask for a raise last year, so I shouldn't ask for a raise this year?
Then they're not going to get a raise. If you don't ask, you're not getting it. I call it in the book planned serendipity. You don't know necessarily what the outcome's going to be. That's a serendipity. But if you're not implementing a plan, you're definitely not getting anything. I mean, if you're not asking, you're not getting.
So when a woman or anyone does go in to ask for the raise, what should she or he have ready to go when the boss, whether it's a man or a woman, says, why do you deserve it?
I was just speaking to somebody about this. You need to have had that ready over the last 6 months. You need to be building your case every day. Everything needs to be on purpose. I think people call it intentional. I call it an on purpose. I have on purposes. Everything I do is an on purpose. You need 6 months of being in your boss, 50% doing your job and knocking it out of the park, another 50% promoting yourself, just like I was saying. Make sure it's front and center, because that is just you walking in to seal the deal. That's not you walking in to start making your case.
Mm-hmm. Emily Lampkin, the cheerleader we all need, but not just the cheerleader. She knows what she's talking about. 25 years in Washington, D.C. You have 3 sons?
I do.
What advice do you give them from a very powerful woman in how they should treat other women once they get into the workplace?
I don't give them advice on that. I not that specifically. 2 of them are in college. One of them is in high school. He's 18 today. It's his birthday. Yes.
Happy birthday to him.
Yes.
Happy anniversary to you
Yes.
of being his mom.
And the most important thing to me is that I am raising men of character. My husband and I approach them in the Jesuit tradition, that they are men for others. We are actually, I think, somewhat different parents. We underparent these boys, not overparent them. They have a lot of freedom and ability to make good decisions. And the second thing about that is we explain to them they are not that special, and that they need to be focused on bringing everybody else with them in life as well. That's what a man does. And I have a lot of pride. And then again, my best advice I can give them on women is how I carry myself. And I see it reflected in the types of women they surround themselves with.
You have ambition coming out of every pore on your body. What would you say to other women who would like to be more ambitious, but they feel like they've been underestimated time and time again?
I have always been underestimated. When I wrote this book, this publisher did not believe I was selling books, much less that I was writing a bestseller. I love it. I don't know of a bigger motivator for myself and others than people underestimating us. Prove them wrong.
I think you might be my best friend.
I want to be your friend, Laura. Okay, can I tell you, I often tell women, you got to get comfortable making asks, and the big asks are a lot easier when you get practice asking for little things. And one of my favorite asks of women is, I would like to be your friend. And here's the great part about it. You cannot use it with men because they confuse friendship with other things. Mm-hmm. So you've got to use that exclusively with girls. When it comes to boys, you've got to make other asks. Otherwise, you've got to talk them down from great ideas they have that are terrible ideas.
But let's dive into that further with women saying,
Yes.
I want to be your friend.
Yes.
I had a conversation with a gal last night. I was having dinner with my husband, and she overheard us talking about something, and she just made the comment, I want to be your friend. And I've said that to other women, but I haven't followed through on it the next day. Maybe because I felt like, oh, well, that was just a passing thing. Maybe she doesn't want to be my friend. How can we be better as adult women shopping for friends and not just shopping for them, like keeping them.
And, it's hard because you have all these other things, and there's not enough daytime to have coffee or drinks. Like, I would be over-caffeinated and drunk all the time. And so here's what I do, and I talk about it in the book. And this is where the real power in networking is to become a connector. And what I recommend in very simple terms, once a year, you bring people together. And every time you meet somebody, put them on that list. And I talk about how to do it for free. And I talk about how to do it so it's not complicated and not in your email and your phone. Super simple ways I do this. Once a year, these people get an invitation from you. They can come or not come to this thing you put together. You do not have to be rich. Your house does not have to be huge. I can hear everybody saying, this is why I can't do this. You can all do this. And that's how you keep all those people close. That becomes your huge, powerful network.
Connector, not competition. Kind of going back to your girlfriend who had a book recently come out too.
Yes.
You mentioned networking. I went to a networking event last night, and in the car, I had a podcast pulled up that you had previously been on. I got a lot of use out of your networking tips. Will you please pass them on to our listeners and viewers right now?
I've got a top 10, but here's the quick ones. Never go to an event without a plan. It could be as simple as meeting 3 new people, thanking the host so you get invited back. It could be you're looking for somebody in particular. This also begets number 2. You don't have to go to the whole thing. I think oftentimes we don't go to something because we block 6 to 8 p.m. and we actually do want to put our kids to bed, and so we say, we can't go to that. If you've got a plan, you can go for 20 minutes and get out. In Washington, I can do 3 or 4 in a night because I've got a plan and I'm going in and out of them every time. Wear something bright, or a brooch or a scarf or a fun handbag or shoes, something that makes it easy for somebody to start a conversation with, and go compliment people. That's a great way to start a conversation.
The plan one I love, because I was listening to this as I was driving up, and I thought, why didn't I listen to this podcast so much sooner? I can't tell you how many events I now feel like I have wasted because I didn't go in with the meet 3 new people.
Or you go in and run into somebody you know and you sit in the corner and talk to them. That is not a networking event then. Grab that friend and say, we're going to go meet other people together.
And I had that in my head too as I walked in and instantly saw someone that I know decently well. And then I felt, Laura, you're kind of staying in one place. You do know this person and you're going to see this person at the next board meeting. You're not going to see that person at the next board meeting. Go introduce yourself. So that was the push that I needed. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
We have just a few more minutes together here with Emily Lampkin. I do want to go back to the fact that you are about to talk to a bunch of teenage girls later this afternoon. They're going to then go home and talk to their parents about this awesome alum who came and gave them advice. What is something that you hope really sticks with them, not just today, but as they then enter into the world?
I want them to go have what they want. I want them to not think because you're not the valedictorian, you're not the star of the field hockey team, you're not the star of the theater production, that you can't have exactly what you want and you are not extraordinary. That's what I want them to know.
You've had a big career already. The book just came out, already a bestseller. What does the future look like for Emily Lampkin?
For work, I'm solely focused on this book right now. And for my life, there's going to be a lot more fun. I never took time off in between jobs. I never, had a semester international, never did any of that stuff. And so I'm hoping that in the future at some point, I am working a 40 or 60-hour week and I'm spending more time enjoying things.
The fact that you even said a 40 to 60-hour work week tells me the majority of your work weeks are like 100 hours.
They can be intense, but I enjoy this.
Good. Thank you so much for giving us so much of your time. Welcome back to St. Louis.
Thank you.
The St. Joe girls are going to get so much out of this. And
don't worry, I've already eaten my body weight in emos since I got here. It was not a problem.
I wanted to know, do you have it every time you come back?
Oh, for sure.
Good.
For sure.
Emily Lampkin, what a
Thanks.
treat. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Glad we're friends.
Best friends. I love this. And friends at home, I hope you have some wisdom, some excitement going into the weekend, and use Emily's advice in your own life in so many different ways. Her book right now, Duct Tape and White Lies, the bestseller. You can get it wherever you get books. I am going to be going through it in my discretionary time because this is going to be so important to me, and a guide as I look to find more success in my life. Until next time, thank you for listening, thank you for learning, and thank you for being Live with Laura.